So, thanks so much, everyone, for joining me for another episode of the Six Figure Designer Podcast. I'm super excited to have one of my coaching members here with me, Tina Margrander. Thanks so much for joining me today, Tina. It's so great to have you here.
I'm happy to be here with you, Pam.
I know you're so smiley today, and we actually almost we had to stop yapping before we started the episode because we were already getting into the juicy stuff, and I didn't want Tina to spill it all, when I wasn't hitting record. So, Tina, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, a little bit about your business, what kind of work you do, how long you've been in business?
Okay, let's see. How do I summarize that? So I've been in the design industry for 22 years.
Hmm.
I went to University of Florida, got my degree, got licensed a few years later. I've worked for a variety of design firms in my area, and I did that for about 16 years. And then suddenly I wasn't feeling like I could find a place that I fit. And I wasn't quite sure why. And after having numerous conversations with my husband, he's like, "Babe, just do it on your own. You've
Take the
got
leap,
this."
right?
I'm like, "Okay, if you think so, I guess I will." So that's kind of how it all came up to about is that, after so many years of gaining knowledge and creating rapport with people in my area, I just kind of felt like it was better that I do this for myself rather than continuing to do it for someone else.
Mhm.
Surprisingly, this October will be 6 years that I made that decision. So I feel like it was a
Incredible.
good decision. It was scary at first. But it's just something that I try and work on a regular basis and making sure that I'm, not only thinking of business, but I got to think of myself, and it's okay to think for myself for things like that. So I've had the pleasure of doing high-end residential interior design for 22 years, and I love it. I've had wonderful clientele experiences, great rapport with builders and architects and tradespeople in my area, and so I feel like that's one of the things that makes my job so enjoyable is that I have such a great community that I get to enjoy and interact with on a regular basis.
Yes, and you and I have known each other for such a long time, and we've actually been working together for a really long time. One of the things that's so it's wonderful, is so great, is that once you're in the fold, you almost never want to leave, right?
Right.
Because you know how good it is and how supportive it is to have a group of people that you can talk to about all these crazy issues that go on in our businesses. But one of the things that I want to point out about Tina, and one of the things I love about Tina, is Tina is freaking fearless, man. If, we talk about, hey, call this person, reach out to this person, do this, Tina's like, I'm on it. And next thing you know, it's been done. She's reporting back. She's, asking the next question. What do I do here? What do I do here? So it's really awesome to work with you, Tina, and to see that your enthusiasm for trying new things and willingness to try new things, and to see honestly how far you've come in just a short period of time. We were even just talking about how far your business has grown, how much you've grown as a designer. So one of the things I'd like you to talk about is like kind of take us back. We've been working together for a really long time, but I'm going to say even take us back to 6 months or maybe just a year ago in your business. Now, where were you at in your business? What was going on? What kind of problems were you running up against in the last 6 months to a year?
Last year, it was very unusual because there weren't as many, communications from the outside coming in. So as far as, like, anything new lined up, usually this for the upcoming year, you start to hear from the builders, the architects, past clients usually start to reach out, summertime, early fall, and,
Right.
it was just really strange that they weren't happening. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to continue working on what I'm working on.
Hmm.
But as it continued week after week after week, I was like, "Oh my god, is there something that I was missing? Like, did I forget something?" No, it was the market. The
Yeah.
market, like, with the interest rates or the housing market, like, people weren't buying or selling or whatever. And so it kind of created this very nerve-wracking
Mhm.
woe is me moment. Like, I was really I it was I was panicking because I was like, I know that there's work out there, but why, for some reason, I felt like my connection to those had somehow been cut off, and I hadn't quite figured out why. So I then reaching out to Pam, let's brainstorm. How do we
Mhm.
jumpstart it again? Like, who are your main people that you do a regular amount of work with? Let's
Mhm.
create a primary list, secondary list, tertiary list, and you're going to go out and you're going to reach out to all these people and you're going to say, "Hey, let's get together for lunch," or "Hey, I saw an article that you wrote," or "I saw you in this, I saw you at this event." Like, just start reaching out to people just to talk and say hi and see what that does for you. And some of it was received, and I was able to, meet up with people. And then some of them, they were like, "Well, thanks for reaching out, but I don't really have anything for you right now," or like, I'm not really in the moment to talk right now or whatever. I was like, "Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine." So it took probably another 3 months before things started to even out again. People were calling, people were communicating,
Mhm.
but it was
Let's
that
for a
moment.
moment. Oh, before we get into the all of that, I just want people to have the understanding that prior to this, you were pretty much booked like a year out.
Right.
You
And
would
that
always be like, "I'm good for the whole year."
Yep,
Like,
yep,
everything we got it all figured out. It's all booked, and then it was a mystery, but something was no longer working
right,
that had been working before, right? You weren't getting those active inquiries, and people weren't just, calling you saying, "I've got this job, I've got this opportunity, I've got this model home." And luckily, Tina has a really incredible bookkeeper that came to her and said, "You've got 3 more months of income, but after that, like, it's starting to look like we need to have something on the books." And
right.
that's, kind of what Tina's referring to. And so many of you listening are waiting even longer than that, meaning you finished your jobs and now you're like, "I need something either right now or next month." So Tina had the foresight and the resources at her disposal to tell her, "Listen, we've got a little window of time,
Right.
but we need to get on it." And
Right. Don't waste the time. Like, we
yeah,
had to plan now. Like, we need to plan now.
yeah, it's now, like, we are now. And let me tell
Mhm.
you, that's again the thing I love about Tina is that literally there was a plan in action very, very quickly. But before we get into that whole plan, I want to also talk about the other thing that you had at the time, 6 months or maybe a year ago, and I think we chuckled about this, is that you had 23 like teeny tiny little projects for the longest time. And you were like,
Right.
"I realized that." What did you realize about having so many small projects?
You were literally no one to everyone. Like, it was never felt like you were grasping, like, there was nothing there of tangible
Mhm.
value. It was,
Yep.
I'm running from appointment to appointment, and I'm replying to emails or sending stuff, but really, was it bringing me joy? Was it bringing any sort of value to my abilities? No.
Right. And
And
was it really that profitable?
exactly, and
Yeah.
because you're having to spend so much time, and for the smaller projects, they're great if it's a filler, like, if it's a onesie twosie, okay, that's fine, but to have, 2/3 of, the project list to be, small in scale, it
Mhm.
was very time consuming, because you're having to research
Deal with the
again
details of 23 small
and
projects, right?
research again,
Yeah.
because every single time you would send them something, and again, it was even just, the communication of it, like, making sure that I understood what they needed and they understood what I can provide. A
Mhm.
lot of those things, it all started to kind of like snowball. Like, it was like, all right, well, they keep adding to this, but I'm not saying, like, I'm not asking enough questions or whatever. Like, it just became very, very frustrating because it was one of those times where I was like, I know I could do so much more if I took the value of all of this and made one project.
Yep.
My time would be so much more well spent
Yep.
than being pulled in 15, 16, 17 different directions and having to communicate to that many extra people. It was daunting. And so to chip away at those and to know that, okay, I've now moved beyond
Right.
having all of the small, 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 it's okay to fill in small, medium, large, extra large, whatever. But a lot of it, I mean, when I first started my business, that's what it was. Everything
Take
seemed like it was
everything, right?
small stuff. Just take it all. Just take it all. It's fine. It's fine. And then, I'm working Saturdays and Sundays and, it should be time with my family and, doing things that I enjoy. And so it had at that point where, I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And so I had to kind of,
Resituate, right?
yeah, make my brain realize that it's okay to say no and it's okay to, to dial back on certain things. But yeah, having, to going from having a lot of projects to then not having anything set up for a couple of months, it was like two opposite ends of the spectrum. And
Yeah,
it
it
was
was crazy, right?
it
Yeah.
was. It was very, very, very chaotic and like I said, it was, very, very concerning to me. But I do feel that, those types of situations allow me to, navigate like, well, I know what I don't want to do,
Yes.
where I want to be. Now I got to
Yeah.
figure out, how am I, what am I doing now that could get me to where I want to be? So it's,
Yeah.
it's just retraining your brain.
Yeah, and some of that came about too, just even understanding that you had 23 small projects, because I think you didn't even realize that you had that is, we do an exercise of what's happening in your business and kind of tracking the types of projects, tracking that profitability in your business. And I think you were even surprised when you came to the meeting and you were like, I did 23 small projects and I
Right.
thought I was doing way less than that, right? And you didn't even realize because you were head down doing the work, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then from there, you had this great thought process that, hey, I could do one project would equate to almost like 10 of
Yep.
these little ones or 5 of these little
Yep.
ones. Let's start getting after those big ones. Now, when that situation came up where you're like, I need to get some business really quick, it was a really concerted effort
Oh,
to
very much
start
so.
to look at not only just getting projects, but getting bigger ones. Like we weren't going after, anything and everything. And one of the things that we sat down and did very, very quickly is, I just told Tina, I'm like, tell me everybody anybody that you can think of that you have ever worked with anytime in your life. And we went through, and I think at first you were like, we're not going to have that many. And by the end of our meeting, I mean, we had like 75 people.
It was
It was
crazy.
incredible. You remembered people you used to work with. You remembered vendors. You remembered realtors that you hadn't spoken to, architects, builders, home builders. There was so many great people. And I think honestly, it took your blood pressure down a little bit because you were
Yeah.
like, oh, I know I got some options here. Like I know some people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what we ended up doing, which is, really prioritizing where could we have the most impact as quickly as possible? Because of course it was like, we need to start to garner some inquiries and make some inroads
Right.
and get some projects on the books, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it was one of those it was one of those moments like who do I feel would be the most reliable source of information? Because a lot of it too, trying to figure out like who do I reach out to? Well, I
Mhm.
could reach out to a lot of different people, but are they going to have information that helps answer questions or brings knowledge to me that then steers me in the right direction? So
Right.
going through that list with you it was very helpful because then we were able to really break down like, okay, if these are the people that you've done work with recently, it's
Mhm.
good to reach out to them, but let's look at this other side of it. These are the people you haven't and why
Spoken
haven't
with.
you? And
Right.
then reach out to them and be like, hey, it's been a while. I saw an article for you or this, that, or the other. So I think it was very helpful to try and rather than just having the blinders up and saying, these are the only people that I've got right now. looking outside of that and realizing that there is a whole other set of, or, a group of people that were very, very, knowledgeable back in the day. Great. Okay. Let's talk to them again. Let's make them relevant now instead
Yes.
of, waiting. So,
Instead of waiting for the phone to ring, you went out there and grabbed it. And I
right.
think, so we, just to give the audience a little idea of timing, I think we met, I'm going to say in October, maybe the very end of September, beginning of October, something like that. And this was a great moment. You came and said between the week between Christmas and New Year's, which typically is totally dead, no matter what market you're in. We are in a seasonal market. Tina's down here in Naples with me. So we have a seasonal market. So when people are gone, they tend to start to plan for their projects. But between Christmas and New Year's, or even between Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving and
and
Christmas,
New,
like
yeah,
never, yeah.
it's dead. So what happened between Christmas and New Year's this past year that was so cool? How many
I
calls did you get?
had, yeah, I had probably, I don't know what, 3 or 4 people reach out to me saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, I've got something in the works. I wanna meet with you. When are you available?"
Yep.
And especially with being condo projects, you gotta jump on those real quick because you
Yep.
have to have things done in a certain time frame, and then the build itself has to be done in a certain time frame. So to have, a handful of projects come around the Christmas holiday time was unusual, but I was happy for it.
You were thrilled. And wasn't that
Right?
really all from your hard work in the previous, say,
And
6
just
weeks?
reaching out. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was incredible. And to take it even one step further, you got an incredible project out of that from an old contact that you hadn't talked to in many, many years. Can
Yep.
you just speak to that a little bit about who the referrer was and the name of the project, meaning the building that it's in, and what that actual, the size of that project for you and your business?
Yeah. So the contact, the person that I've known him for, oh my gosh, I don't know,
20 years, right?
15, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but over the years, he has always been a good referral source.
Mhm.
Whether it was new construction or it was a condo remodel or it was, somebody just needs help with, house updating, stuff like that. So it was nice, and that was when and I met him when I was working for other design firms. And
Mhm.
but when I started my own business and I reached out and I said, "Hey, this is me now, and I'd love to continue working with you." He was totally on board, like
You were
1000
shocked, weren't
on
you? Were
board. He
like,
was
"Oh
like,
my god, this is
"Absolutely."
awesome."
Yeah, he's like, "Absolutely. I got your number. This is great. I'm going to call you." And for a while, for the first, I would say first 2 or 3 years, I had some consistent projects from, coming into the pipelines. And then there was a little bit of a lull. So it had been, I'd probably say almost 2 years since the last time I had spoken to him. But again, just because we're in the area, not even to say that we, are, fishing for work, but just to say, how are you? Especially
Yep.
after a hurricane, with all of us being in this area and, we are a community, you want to make sure that the people that you are in connection with are okay.
Right.
So after Hurricane Ian came through, I was reaching out to past clients. I was reaching out to builders, realtors, architects, like, hey, everybody, are you guys okay? Do you need anything?
Mhm.
And did the same thing, last year with Helene and Milton. I again reaching out, just, hey, just if you need anything, you let me know.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, he reached back out and he was like, "Oh, it's so good to hear from you. We finally have our office building back into working parts, and it's just been a long process, but I do have some things that I would love to sit down and talk to you about." I'm like, "Absolutely. You just let me know when you're ready." So that was one of those moments where, I mean, it's great when you can reach out to people, not that you wanna just wait for natural disasters to happen, but it is something down here that we deal with on a yearly basis. So to say that I was, keeping in touch with him, it
Yeah.
was more just a, "Hey, I just wanna make sure you're okay,"
It
not
was
to say
very
that.
authentic. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
being genuinely authentic and just saying, "Hey,
right.
just wanted to see if you're okay." That is what these relationships are all about. Um, And one of the things that I think was really interesting is that I think you hadn't, had any contact with him for a few years, but
Right.
when you needed to start drumming up business, you're like, oh, he's always been a great contact. And so you circled back with him and you got an incredible project out of that from that relationship, correct?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's gonna be an amazing project. It's one of the new condo buildings that's being done down at the Ritz-Carlton residence. It's gonna be absolutely gorgeous when it's all said and done.
Mhm.
Super exciting.
Great client too, right? A
Great
client
client.
that you're like,
Very,
how do I clone this
yeah, I
person?
know. So easy to work with, communicates well, he trusts the process,
Mhm.
trusts my professional recommendations for things. And was very, I want to say confident, but I think he was more grateful that I was just taking the time to explain. And, if he had questions, it wasn't like, oh my God, you're wasting my time. Like, I wanted to
Right.
make sure that he felt comfortable. So it was a great opening, meeting with him, and then to just continue to move on and with all of that. And the really nice thing is, when the realtor goes on and on about, no, this is great and this is great and this is great during a presentation. And then at the end, he was like, this is exactly what I had envisioned for your
Yes.
project.
All your
And
hard work was well
and it
received.
was definitely,
Yeah.
in that moment, you do feel validated that, okay, so
Yeah.
this was a great moment to just reflect back on and say, I've got this. I got this. Don't, to say that it's always going to be like that is probably, a little naive, but I would love
Well,
to
we're going to change that
having clients
percentage.
that love
Yep.
to just have the understanding that, this is why you're hiring a professional, is to handle all of these things, and it will be beautiful, and you don't have to worry about, any of the behind the scenes stuff because we've got it all taken care of.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we're even diving into with this specific situation, because it's so incredible, is, you and I are talking about how do we clone this person? How do we find more of them? What are the things that they've said? Where are they coming from? How do we get to more of these for you? Because
Right.
I also know not only did they very respectful of your time, really appreciate what you brought to the table, but also an extremely lucrative project. Like this is a six-figure design project.
Right.
Well, well into the six figures. And I'm going to say relatively easy because
It
they're
will.
so trusting of your professional advice. And that's
Right.
the big aha moment there,
It
right?
is. Yep, it is. It is. It's not something that you get very often. I would say this is probably like my unicorn project. Like,
Oh,
I
no, girl. This is absolutely not a unicorn project. No,
to
hell
find
no.
someone that really does. And I would say I do have a lot of my clients that, they would trust, okay, Tina, whatever, whichever one you want, which one do you like better? I'm like, well, I like this one, but it's your house. Like, it's always been the running joke of, I'm
Mhm.
not going to show you something that I don't like. It's there for conversation.
Yeah.
But to truly have someone say 100%, yep, you come up with what you think my place needs
Mhm.
and show it to me. And
Yeah, so we're in the process of
loved it
doing
all.
that. Yeah, this is what we aspire to and why not. And then the other
Right.
thing is to basically go from I have 3 months left and no projects to pretty full up at this point. I think there's been a lot of obviously work and effort on your part, but then just identifying and then continuing to carve the time out to stay in touch because you see how
Yep.
that's all you know, started to roll, right? In
Right.
terms of bringing in projects. The other big shift that I saw in you over even the last 6 months to a year is the how you're charging and your fee structure. I think when, when we first started working together, I think you were charging only about $5,000 in design fees,
Oh,
maybe
they were so small. I
they were
know.
so small. And then about 6 months or a year ago, you're like, a really great project came across your desk and you're really struggling because you had never charged anything more than about $17,000 in design fees. And you were thinking, I think I'm going to charge, I think you said something like maybe 25,
30.
30.
I was thinking like 30 or 40 at most.
Okay. Yeah. And then I kind of said, oh, hell no, because this is a
Absolutely
huge
not.
project.
Don't do that.
So are you willing to say what your design fee was on that project?
96,000.
Yeah, girl.
Which
What? Yes. And I remember, so this is what I
Yeah.
love about you, because I remember you're like, I think 30,000. I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, absolutely not. This is huge. It's a huge project. And she hasn't even gotten to the furniture yet, which is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But, advised her on where she needed to be. And, God love Tina. She's like, yep, okay, I'm going to try it.
I mean, all they could say was no.
All
or
they could say
or
is
reduce
no.
rate, I guess.
Biggest project ever in her career. And literally, I think they signed how fast? Quick, really quick, within a couple weeks.
Within a matter of, a few weeks, it was signed and the first payment was sent to me.
How did you feel about presenting the biggest design fee that you've ever charged? I know that you had, obviously some coaching behind you as to how to handle some things and how to react, but how did you feel? Like, did you feel sick to your stomach when you,
I mean, it was,
what was going on?
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking because like I said, I've always done, in my mind, I was like, oh, X number of hours, I could do it like this, I could do it like this. And to switch over and say, no, we're going to do a price per square foot. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I started doing the math and I'm like,
this is a bigger number than I was thinking.
this is a lot more than what I was originally thinking. And so to have to have that little bird tweeting in my ear saying, hey,
you can do it.
Yeah, that's what you're going to need, because you start to think about the time it's going to take for you to do all of the appointments, the selections, the organization of it, the process of just building the property itself.
Yeah.
All the follow-up, all of the site meetings, all of the, like, everything that you would need to do. I mean, you're looking at something that's going to be, 16, 18 months worth of time.
Yep.
And then you break that down, you take that and divide it by your $96,000 design fee, and you've got something at least coming, every other month you've got something coming in, and it's helped spread it across your platform of, operating expenses and everything, because otherwise I would have sold myself short, significantly short, because I was thinking, oh, it's just based on hours. And by thinking of it and based on square footage, because clients can take however long they want to take to make selections for certain things.
So what happened when they signed that design fee from you, the biggest one you've ever gotten? How did that shift your confidence?
It made me realize that I was doing it wrong. I mean, it made me
you
realize
could do it.
that
Like you said, though, I think you said at the meeting that I can do this.
I can do this. Yeah. Like what I was doing before, I mean, yeah, I guess it worked. But if I were to go back and actually calculate the hours that I spent on those projects, I was always coming up short. I was always coming up short, where at least with this, I know for a fact that, for the time that I would be spending on this project, and the level of detail that is owed to this project, the design fee itself needed to reflect that. And honestly, when you think, someone's going to be building, a $6, $7, $10 million house,
Right.
$96,000 is horrible.
Nothing.
It's going to be a drop in the bucket, because
really
it's
is
part
nothing.
of the investment of the property. I mean, they have to pay an architect to come up with, and I know they're spending way more than $96,000 for an architect or structural engineer. And, you've got the general contractor with their markups. Like, everybody is going to be doing something that brings the value of them to the project. And I needed to step up my game. I think if I had gone in with the original notion of the $30,000 or $40,000 thing, they probably would have looked at me and be like,
might not have gotten it.
That could have backfired, because they would have been like, wow, that's really cheap. I wonder why she's cheap.
Why?
You know?
But also too, now you feel, I think, that you feel, because first of all, you got over 3 times what you were going to originally ask, that you are like,
Mhm.
you just feel very well valued, very
Mhm.
well compensated,
Yep.
and you're going, this is great
Right.
because I don't have to
Well,
worry
and the
about
builder has
23
my
small
back too.
projects.
Yeah. Well, and the builder has my back too. I mean, with
Mhm.
being referred by the builder and they have confidence in me and I know that, there's so many of us down in this area. I mean, it's incredibly saturated with designers and everybody charges differently, but to also be competitive amongst those that you want to be, kind of associated in terms of value,
Right.
you want to make sure that you're charging appropriately because if you sell yourself too short, then that could deter someone be like, well, I don't know, that seems a little low
Yep.
and they were way over here and I don't know and but then also it helps to weed out the ones who may have taken advantage or not quite understood what it is that you do or the value of your expertise. So I do feel moving forward with having the higher design fee that was approved and
You did
whatnot.
it. You
It
saw it
did.
come
It
through. Yep.
really
It's
it did. And
possible.
it made me sit down and really crunch the numbers and saying, okay, so moving forward, if I take this
Mhm.
formula and I apply it to all of these new projects, what would I be, and
Or
the
might not.
design fees
Mhm.
are so much better now. So
Yep.
much better. I don't feel like I'm just working for peanuts.
Yep.
And honestly, again, for the clientele that, that are reaching out and or being referred to me, they have a better handle on like, for budgeting purposes. Okay, well, now I know that this is going to be this and this,
Yep.
and it all, it all starts to fall into place rather than, it going to somebody who likes to shop Wayfair or IKEA or do this all DIY nonsense. No, they're not going to want to pay the design fee, but that's not my clientele.
Right. And that you bring up something really great, which is you're much more confident now to know what's a good fit
Yep.
and what's not a good fit. And you're really okay and confident to turn things down because you also know how to drum up business
Right.
in the right, for the right types of clients.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's where, 5.5, 6 years ago, it was literally saying yes to everything. And now I can look at my client list that, my project list that I have now, and I have 8 really great projects that I'm
And you
happy
don't
with
feel as
that I don't,
frazzled as you
nope,
did when you had 23 small projects plus
no,
other.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're probably making more money too.
Well, exactly. And like I said, like the design fees have been, formulated to reflect the level of detail
Yeah. That you're
and
providing.
looking
Mhm.
yeah, and then looking back on, the way I was doing it back then to what I'm doing now, I mean, just the profitability of the design fee alone is probably, doubled if not tripled some of that aspect of it
Mhm.
and being able to hone in and say that, these are the types of projects that I want to work on and try and steer away from the ones that don't bring me joy.
Yes, and you also bring up a good point is now that you have that confidence of, getting these higher fees, I think that you can much more easily sell it to somebody, sell it to a builder, sell it to a client because
Yep.
you know exactly, to your point, the level of detail that you want to bring to every project, all the drawings, all the selections, and you know how much time that takes because you've been on the other side of that where you weren't compensated for that. And
Right.
you see now what it's like. The grass
Yeah.
is greener over here and you'll never go back. That even goes to, we were just talking the other day about markups on furniture and getting compensated for making selections and what happens with clients who, promise that they're going to buy everything and then
Right.
renege on that and what happens to that time. So that's also like a big growth as well is that, you getting compensated for all your time on these projects and now you can speak to why that is, right? Very confident.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. So how do you feel different about your business now than you did maybe 6 months or 8 months ago? I know we kind of touched on it, but how do you feel about
I
your business?
I feel like the that moment of panic
Mm-hmm.
made me kind of think back as, like what are the core, like who are my core resources
Mm-hmm.
for contacts,
Yep.
and making sure that I don't forget about them, because I feel, and that was always one of my things, when working for other design firms, and you meet people along the way, but I always made sure that I reached out to everybody that I knew
Mm-hmm.
from before,
Yep.
because I wanted to stay in contact with them. And I know for some people after a while, they're like, oh, well, it's been a few years, but I've got new people. I'm not really worried about it. But
Yep.
you never know. I mean, it could
Build the
really
list.
turn into something
Grow the
else.
list.
Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and, I even had, a girlfriend of mine that her and she was a project manager for a builder a few years ago, and we did a model home, and then she got an offer to work for somebody else, so she went and did that. I haven't talked to her in 18 months,
Yep.
and she called me up the other day and was like, "Hey, Tina, how are you? How's everything going? What's your project load look like? I
Mhm.
think I might have some stuff to work on with you." I mean, just out of the blue, like she just called me just out of the blue. So you just
Actually, it
never
wasn't out of the
know.
blue because we did talk about that. Remember, you said something to her like
Oh, it was through
on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
Yeah,
happy
just, "Hey,
birthday
how
or
are you?"
something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, those are just little things. Happy birthday, thinking about you, happy
Doesn't
wedding
take much
anniversary,
time.
whatever it is. It
Mm-mm.
just little things that you could send out to somebody that takes all of 30 seconds to do.
Yeah.
Um,
We kind
but
of make it this big
ultimately,
thing, and it's really not this big thing.
it's
We just
not.
do it a little
Yeah.
at a time, right?
Right. I mean, I don't have to write a 3-page letter to everybody explaining
Right.
this is how my life has been. Like, it's just, how are you? Like, how are
Yeah.
things going with you? Like, that's ultimately what it came down to. And even, like, depending on who you're reaching out to, you could have different ways of kind of pulling the threads. If it's a realtor, talk about the real estate market. If it's a builder, talk about the cost of materials, or how things are going with the labor pool, like all that stuff. Like there's different things. And that's how I had to kind of like, let's go back to the basics. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are their, professional expertise in?
Mm-hmm.
Let's ask about it. I want to learn what they're going through. I want to learn what they're seeing right now, so that I can better prepare myself if someone were to ask me those questions.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. And how has it been helpful to also like have a group that you can go to and say, all right, I've got this person that I want to reach out to. How do I best do it?
right.
What can I talk about? Right.
Yeah. No, it's great to have other people in the industry, because we all go through the same nonsense.
We
We
do.
we all do. And
No one's immune.
no one's immune. No one is perfect. Nobody's business has just been flourishing, 1,000% the whole time. So it has been very helpful and humbling and eye-opening to me to hear the stories coming from other people. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I so get that. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I have a
Makes you
solution
feel
for
not
that.
alone, right?
Exactly. And
Mm.
it does. It makes you realize that we are a community. Yes, we are in business for ourselves, and obviously we all want to be profitable in our businesses,
Mm.
but we can still help each other along the way. I mean, there's no reason why we can't be, decent human beings, and be, professionals, to say, "Hey, you know what? I see that you're struggling a little bit with this. I got a situation that was kind of like that. This is how I handled it. Maybe it's something that you could try." And people they're very open and receptive to that. Like, we get so
Mhm.
scared that I don't want to tell anybody what's going on with me, because I don't want them to think I'm weak, or that I'm not capable of handling this.
Mhm.
No, I mean, it's no different than talking to family members about, personal things, or talking to a teacher if you don't understand something in the lesson. Like, just talk. Like, a lot of times you can start to figure it out
Mhm.
in your
By
own head,
talking. Yeah.
because it's coming out. Like, you're not just rattling around. It's not just banging back and forth. Like, you're able to get the words out and really understand what you're saying. And then sometimes you do have your own aha moment while you're talking about it, or someone has their own aha moment while you're talking about it.
Well, it's always helped.
Oh,
The group is very open
oh
and
yeah.
caring, and so there's a lot of trust there
Yep.
to be able to talk about stuff because we've all been there.
We've all done it.
And I don't think there's anything that anyone's brought up. And there's been some stuff that's happened in this group that um, we're all just there for each other. There's
Yep.
no judgment. And we're
No.
just in there helping each person get through the situation that's going on in their business. And I think that sense of community is really invaluable.
It is. Well, and I love the things when we get together, the way you start them out, Pam, and you're like, okay, what are the wins?
We
Let's
always want to
start
talk
on
about
a
wins.
positive.
Yeah.
Let's
Mhm.
talk about the wins. Let's talk about all of those things. And then segue into, okay, now does anyone have an issue that you need to discuss or try and have a resolution for? But
Mhm.
even that, like, as we talk through things like that, we're all just trying to navigate
Mhm.
and mature our thought process so that we can continue to be better. Because if you keep doing things the same way, at some point it's gonna crash and burn. I don't know how many, like, if you're not learning regularly, then you're
Yeah.
gonna get left behind. So,
Yeah.
with our group, I feel like I'm constantly learning something.
There's always something new. So what as you move into the next 6 months, what do you envision for your own business? Where do you want to go with it?
So, again, I'm gonna continue to work on reaching out to past connections. How
Mhm.
are you? How has your summer been?
Yeah.
How
And then so
how are
getting
things.
more of those perfect clients, right? Like the
Right.
one that we want to clone more of them so it's 80%
Right,
of your
exactly, right.
business is from
I don't wanna, I don't want at any point to feel like I'm going backwards.
yeah.
Sometimes you have a client that may remind you,
Mhm.
"This is not
Oh, well,
this
the
is not
universe
the
likes
good
to hit
one."
us over the head sometimes going, "You didn't learn
Right,
that lesson the first time, so we're
right. So
just
we're
gonna
gonna
bring it
do it
back around
again. Yeah, we're gonna do it again
again,
just in case.
again, one more time for the people in the
But
back. Let's
right.
remind you."
But
Yeah.
I do feel like, for the second half of this year and even going into quarter 1 for 2026, I mean, I'm gonna continue. My goal is to continue the steady communication and outreach to the people that have done, they've done something for me. I wanna reach out and,
Mhm.
if I have the ability to help them with something, or, if we have the opportunity to work together on something, that would be, wonderful. But I think my big thing is just it was a reminder, this time last year was a reminder that, don't forget about
Your
your
network.
resources. Yeah, don't forget
Don't
about your
forget.
network because
It's and
they're all
don't wait.
there. Yep, they're all there. And
Yeah.
I think it was interesting how a lot of, I even had builders, that were reaching out to me, "Tina, do you have anything? Like, we're just
Mhm.
really slow right now. Reach out to us if something comes up." I had trim carpenters, my painters, like everybody was just reaching out, like, "Hey, work." So it wasn't just something that I felt, it trickled to every
Right.
aspect of the industry. People were realizing that, wow, this is really unusual for it to be this slow
Quiet. Yeah.
and quiet. So I do feel that, but again, you also have to have the ability to evolve or to, think outside the box on certain situations. I mean, when the real estate market crashed in 2007, 2008, nobody was building anything.
Mhm.
People were thinking, well, I'm going to have to stay here. I can't sell my property. I'm going to
Right.
remodel or I'm
Yep.
going to interior update. And that's what the projects were for a good, 2 years, was a lot of just remodel and or updating. For the people that didn't try to get into that, a lot of them, they had to leave. And so that was the same thing here. Like, I didn't want it to be one of those moments where I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna throw my hands up in
Done.
the
Yeah.
air. Oh, it is what it is.
No, you
I
really just
wanted
went
to.
that let's you had a moment where it was a little
Yeah,
like, "I'm kinda losing my shit," and then it was, "Let's get to work. Enough
right.
of that. Let's get to
Yep.
work," right? And that's exactly what you did, and I think that you having a plan and understanding what to work on was also very alleviated the stress a lot more because you're like, I know what I need to do. I know who I
Yep.
need to contact. I know what order I need to contact people
Yep.
in because we've prioritized them into 3 buckets.
Right.
The people that can get us business the fastest, right? And so that was nice to have that roadmap.
Right.
Say, this is what you should be working on. You're not out there on your own in the middle of the sea, just flailing your arms trying to figure out what to do. You knew exactly what to do. And
Right.
contact and we brainstormed what to say to get them to pick up the phone or get them to the respond or, any of that to get that conversation rolling.
Exactly. And even just, like I said, you're just thinking about what their industry is and how to gauge the conversation to their industry, not just a, "Hey, do you have anything new for me?" Like, making
Just
it like
checking
a
in.
right, just checking in, I
Don't do
wanted
that.
it I wanted it to be relevant. I wanted it to feel, genuine and that,
Helpful, right?
it
And
was right, and
authentic.
thoughtful. So, to do, to have my network of people that I've known for 20 years,
Mhm.
you start to know a lot about their personal, "Hey, how are your kids? How was your summer? How was this? How was that? How are your
Right.
grandkids?" Like, you start to gain more of a rapport than just the work. And so,
Yes.
by understanding that, you might be going through it, but I guarantee you there's so many others out there that are also going through it, and they just don't know
Talk
how
about
to.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question I want to ask you is because you have actually been at both of the in-person events that I've run here in Naples, and I wanted you to just speak to what you thought of having this in-person event and the different energy that is from the online when we do our online work
Mhm.
to being in person, hanging out with everyone, doing the, home tours. What
Mhm.
what was your thoughts on the last Naples experience?
I love in-person stuff. I love, like, for us to be able to get together and for
Mhm.
me to be able to hug everybody, like, I'm just like, "Oh my god, I get to touch you and hug you, and I get to laugh with you and have a
Oh yeah.
drink with you." Like, it's outside of the normal work schedule, and it really was so refreshing to we were thinking, we were working on processes and all of that, but it was so much more fun because we could laugh and it was so casual and you're having lunch and you're out looking at, beautiful properties, like all of these fun things that we can do. And you kind of forget, like, well, it's supposed to be fun. Like, you
Oh
got to
yeah.
have fun. Like, you can't just always be work, work, work. Like,
Yeah.
so for me, it's always, I love social events. I love getting together with people. I love meeting new people. So for me to, to be able to be a part of that for the second year and, for us to do some of the same things that we did, but then also some new things was great because it really, brought it all together. Like our Zoom calls are fun and they're always, super helpful, but to just be around people and the energies of them and their personalities and you kind of just you soak it all up and it's just so fun to to get into everybody's personalities and when you're in person with each other and
We came up
being
with a lot of little sayings and
oh
things
we
too,
did
right?
it was great it
It
was
was.
so good
And
because
I
we
think you
weren't
had
there.
said something like it was a little I think you had said specifically like it was kind of hard to pull away from the day to day, but once you were
Mhm.
out of the office, you were
It
just
was
like,
so
this is me.
therapeutic. It was
Yeah.
great. No, it
Yeah.
was definitely I mean, to be able to go to the sunset and see the dolphins, like, how often you get to do that? I get to do it once a year with you, Pam.
Yes. And next year too, because we already got the dates on the calendar.
Why
I'm just
not?
yeah.
Yeah.
This
So,
is the
but that
best part of like doing business and
mhm.
fun at the same time because it
Yeah.
really opens you up to like some great ideas on how to, approach some things differently in your business moving
Mhm.
forward. And then seeing those details, right, of
Yep.
those beautiful homes. You were like, everyone said they took little pictures of
Little
things that they
pieces.
wanted
Yep.
to incorporate or great
Yep.
ideas or maybe not some great ideas, aha moments about,
How to execute something, a certain type of finish,
a
maybe
certain type
not.
of client. All of that was very enlightening. Well, I want to say, Tina, thank you so much for being open and telling everybody about all the stuff that's going on in your business, which is super exciting actually, but I'm really proud of all the things you've accomplished not only in the 6 years of business, but even in the last 6 to, 9 months
Mhm.
because you've really, accelerated the profitability in your business, the type of projects that you're doing, the size of projects, like you've really blossomed over the last 6 months. So thank you so much for being a part of this and
Of
sharing your
course.
experience. It was so great to have you. So I
No, my
appreciate you
pleasure.
being on the call. And if Tina gives us her information, we'll definitely put it in the show notes so y'all can go check out her amazing work. It is gorgeous. And thanks so much for being here with us.